everyone. Welcome to the Founders Stage. I'm Eliza Dabney from Plural, and I'm with Ismail Sami from Molyon. Ismail, thank you for coming all the way to Tallinn for this conversation. Really have been looking forward to it.
Thanks for having me.
Nice. Well, to kick off, would you mind introducing yourself and also telling us about what you're building with Molyon and why it matters?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on stage. It's great to be here. So my name is Ismail Sami. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Molyon. We're a next-generation battery company, a spin-out from the University of Cambridge. We're building very high energy density batteries and talk a bit more about what we're sort of making them for. Our sort of vision is to make high-performance, more sustainable batteries, which are also supply chain resilient as well, and making them in Europe, manufacturing them in Europe as well. So we're a very new company. We sort of spun out of the University of Cambridge about a year ago. We closed our first funding round with Plural, IQ Capital, about 6 months ago, and we're building our pilot facilities in Cambridge and building these batteries at the moment.
Could you explain a little bit about the breakthrough that you guys had in the lab, and then also tell us about the journey of spinning out of Cambridge and what that was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my PhD at Cambridge, and I was working on a class of advanced materials. These materials are sort of layered, similar to graphene. And my co-founder at the time was a researcher at Cambridge as well. He was building these new next-generation batteries. And we came together, and he took these advanced materials I was working on and found that they work phenomenally well in this next generation battery chemistry. So the battery chemistry we're building is called lithium sulfur. And lithium sulfur is not on the market at the moment. They're not being commercialized. And that's because, to date, the problem with lithium sulfur is that you could either get the high energy density or you could get long cycle life. You can never get both, never have practical batteries which are actually useful for applications. And so what we developed is a new novel material which can hold the sulfur in lithium sulfur really well. And what this does is it allows you to get both the high energy and the high cycle life as well. So we've sort of solved that key issue, which has meant that you can now, we sort of remove that commercial sort of hindrance, and that's what we're doing. We're building these lithium sulfur batteries with our sort of key cathode innovation. We discovered this in about 2 years ago, in 2023, at the university, and we spent time at the university sort of breaking down some of the technical challenges in getting this technology commercialized. We started off making very small, very tiny batteries to begin with, ones like the ones in your sort of smartwatch. Then we started making larger batteries, ones like the ones in your sort of phone. And we got to the point where we had sufficiently broken down some of those scientific challenges using grant funding from the UK. And we got to the point where the co-founders at the university decided that we were going to leave our academic lives and we were going to do this for real. So we created Molyon a year ago. We moved the IP from the university into the company, raised some funding, and now we're getting started.
And with that in mind, can you paint a picture of like what changes when there are Molyon batteries everywhere, both thinking in terms of like short-term applications and also thinking much longer term?
Yeah, absolutely. I think batteries, they're so key for electrification. They're in so many applications in our phones, laptops, our watches, electric vehicles. But there is a key sort of issue with current batteries, and that is they're not good enough for our lifestyles. We have to charge our phones sometimes twice a day. People still have range anxiety when you're thinking about buying an electric vehicle. So current lithium-ion batteries, they're not there yet. And they also use sort of critical metals and materials which are sourced from geographically concentrated places. They're sourced using sort of child labor as well. And so there's all these problems around lithium-ion. They're not good enough at the moment. And they're reaching that theoretical limit as well, so they're not going to get much better either. So we're building lithium-sulfur batteries, which are significantly higher in performance. So the batteries we make, they're twice the energy for the same weight compared to lithium-ion batteries. And that has huge implications for a number of different applications. Anything that sort of moves or flies can use these batteries. And some of the markets that we're looking at are the drone industry, sort of commercial uses in terms of inspection, used in sort of in construction as well, but also in defense markets where doubling the range that your drone can fly is massively important. Those are sort of, that's one sort of area we're looking at. Another area we're also looking at is mobility applications, and applications like e-scooters, ones I've seen all around Tallinn as well, with Bolt everywhere. Getting more range from those e-scooters is incredibly important, and you can't just ignore electric vehicles either. They're a massive market, and our aim is to build these batteries to really reduce and get rid of that range anxiety, get the range in electric vehicles that you need for your lifestyle.
And does it really make sense to actually build this from Europe or the UK? I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but it feels like, aren't we quite late to batteries at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, when you look at the lithium-ion market right now, 90% of the manufacturing happens in Asia, and that's supported by the fact that 90% of the raw materials that go into the batteries are sourced, are processed in Asia as well. They've really sort of dominated current battery technology and manufacturing as well. What we're doing is we're building sort of reliance by moving away into a new battery chemistry. And that allows us to work on a battery chemistry that hasn't been commercialized yet. It's not on the market, but that allows us to get started, build the knowledge, the know-how, and start building that sort of ground work in manufacturing as well in Europe to give us a chance to make it globally at a new stage as well.
And you may have just touched on this in one way, but I think there's probably a lot of people in this audience who are thinking, you hear batteries, you hear Europe, and you're thinking Northvolt. That's a team that raised serious capital. They assembled a world-class team, and they really went for it. And so how are you building how is your approach different?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess, what Northvolt were doing in terms of trying to bring battery manufacturing to Europe is really commendable. I mean, they really gave it a go. They raised serious money to do that and had a team to do that. I think what the story shows is that building current lithium-ion batteries in Europe is really tricky. You're trying to do something from scratch, which Asia has had decades of experience in. It has all the supply chain to support it doing that as well. And replicating that and trying to offer the same batteries for the same price and the same sort of production is really hard. And what we're doing that's different is we're working on a new battery technology where there isn't there isn't that sort of groundwork built anywhere at the moment. It's really really new. It's really light years ahead, and we're working on it now to build that all that know-how, all that sort of knowledge around this new battery technology to give us a chance to actually manufacture these in Europe and make us a name for ourselves on the global stage. Yeah.
What are the geopolitical implications of what you guys are building? And also, assuming that, we obviously believe you're going to be successful, but what does that mean for Europe?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So, we're looking at a number of different applications for these batteries, and defense is one of them. And when we look at current lithium-ion batteries, so many of the raw materials are sourced from Asia, and from really concentrated locations. And that doesn't build a lot of sort of resilience in the supply chain. And that's really tricky when you're trying to build, say, drones or any other sort of defense technology using batteries, coming from somewhere else. It's quite hard to, that's quite a hard narrative. What we're doing is we're trying to build that resilience by using more sustainable materials. So our batteries, they use predominantly sulfur, and sulfur is incredibly cheap. It's sourced widely available as well. So it gives us that sort of supply chain options when we're looking at where to source these materials from. 90% of our materials that we're using, they come from Europe and the US as well. And so what we're trying to do is build these batteries using more sort of fragmented supply chains, build them and get that sort of manufacturing resilience in Europe and build something homegrown as well for these really critical applications that we're looking at as well. Yeah.
That's great. And then also, it'd be interesting to hear about your experience building a deep tech startup from Europe, and also, I think specifically thinking about how that translates to capital efficiency, also recruitment, talent, manufacturing, development timelines. You talked about having, I know you guys are an incredible academic team. How has that affected how you've thought about the rest of the team composition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were spinning out of the university, and when you look at it, we were a bunch of academics, and what do we know about manufacturing? So we've had to really think about assembling a team that can do that. So we brought on some really great people from Rolls-Royce, DuPont, Jaguar Land Rover, people who've been there, done it, seen what manufacturing looks like, so that we can have a really good shot at it. One of my co-founders is Sai, who's building these batteries at Nyobolt, and we have a ton of experience in the team in actually seeing at scale where we want to go. In terms of sort of the journey, in terms of building a deep tech startup as well, I guess we don't have tons and tons of cash to just burn freely. Who does really? So we have to be really sort of efficient with the capital that we put towards equipment, to making sure that the equipment cost isn't just sunken costs, it's working capital, and being very efficient about building our capabilities. So we've just built our 2 pilot plants in Cambridge. One is manufacturing advanced materials, and the other one is manufacturing batteries. And we've gotten sort of really smart about using things in the ecosystem to help us do that, using resources like catapults, using the ecosystem in the UK, using grant funding to allow us to build these plants very cheaply, and start manufacturing without just sinking loads and loads of costs. And then the other thing on that as well is sort of the development cycles. They're so long, and that's something that we're hugely aware of. And when we sort of plan and think about the commercial stages that we've got in mind for the future as well, we've thought really carefully about what is necessary for us to do, and a lot of that comes into what we should do, what we shouldn't do as well. There's a lot of things that we can't get distracted with, especially when you're trying to build something that's really capital intense.
And you're obviously very bullish on batteries and kind of where we're going with electrification. What are the other really key components that need to happen in the energy markets to actually make all of this a reality? Yeah,
it's definitely a sort of a system approach into integrating batteries into our everyday lives. I think the manufacturers have gotten really smart and sophisticated about using batteries cleverly. We've seen people use batteries in hybrid systems, using different battery chemistries in tandem, and this means that for us, getting these batteries integrated in the market has gotten easier over time. The market's really gotten quite clever about using new sort of propulsion technologies and other things as well. I think ultimately it's a systems sort of play where these batteries, we want them to be charged using renewable technologies and have the infrastructure to do that as well. And while we're talking about supporting potentially electric vehicles in the future and getting rid of range anxiety, getting the infrastructure to not even have that issue in the first place is a win-win for everyone. And so we're really sort of bullish on batteries, but we recognize that they're a part in a wider sort of systems approach.
And what do you really see as Molyon's next big milestones? Like, what's happening in the next 12 months? What are you planning?
Yeah, so we've been very busy since we closed our funding round with yourselves. We've built up our pilot plants. We've gone operational, which is really exciting. We take raw materials, which we source from Europe and US, and we build batteries from them, and they work. So you can do it. And we have that capability in Cambridge. What we're looking at doing in the next sort of months coming up is taking these batteries and really testing them in real environments and looking at the markets like drone and sort of defense, where we have design partners, testing them in realistic conditions and environments to show that we can massively improve sort of the range and flight time of drones and use that to look at potentially other markets as well. So we're excited to get these batteries tested and to show that they do what we say. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly exciting and important what you guys are building. What would be the one thing that I haven't asked that is important for people in this room to know about Molyon and what you guys are building and why it matters? Or is there a call to action or anything key before we close?
I'm trying to think. I think we've covered a lot. I guess, I think when we're looking at sort of deep tech and starting off, because we're at such an early stage, we're really at that the beginning of our journey, and it can seem, doing something like manufacturing in Europe and building something in the UK as well, it's really daunting, or can seem like it. But I think there's so many sort of great help and advice in the ecosystem and people who can support to do that. And we've really used that to our advantages. We've got great people who really support our mission from large engineering firms and design partners who want to see this happen. So I think while it can seem like a tough prospect to manufacture and build products like in deep tech in Europe, we're giving it a go, and we're seeing that there's so much support for it.
Well, it's inspiring to see what you've built in such a short time, and it's really encouraging to see this level of ambition coming from Europe, and cannot wait to see how you guys continue to grow. So huge thanks for taking the time for this. Thanks everyone for listening, and
thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.